morning as I was getting around, I kept hearing the word gluttony, and I'm like, why am I hearing this word? Like, what am I supposed to be getting from this message? So as I as I do sometimes, I think if you guys have seen the video like of the Melchizedek video, that's kind of how I process things. Like I'll get a word, and then if I know that it's a message that I'm supposed to look into, I'll kind of like Google the word or maybe look it up in the dictionary and all of those kind of things. So it kind of led me on this goose chase this morning. And what that is talking about when you're talking about gluttony, it's an overindulgence with no regard for others. So that was the base. I mean, I know it's usually talking about overeating or things like that, but in this, the way that my guides are bringing it to me today, it's about just overindulgence without regard for others, which totally makes sense. This is kind of like what's going on with like the toilet paper, right? Like people are going out just stockpiling toilet paper and buying so much, and they don't even care if anybody else needs any or whatever. Whereas like hopefully the rest of us are hopefully everybody on this call knows, yeah, of course you maybe want to get like a little bit extra, but you don't need to just hoard it. So it was really interesting that that's where my guides were taking me this morning, talking about the gluttony and then showing me where it's showing up with others as far as everything that we're experiencing right now in this pandemic, right? So the people that are doing the overindulgence and that have no care for others, it's because they're not trusting on some level. Okay. So there's this whole thing going on as I was looking this up, and it kind of led me to looking at like the seven sins and those kind of things. And the other word that kept coming to me over and over is that we have to move forward with dignity and grace. So those of you that are on this call know that in some way, shape, or form, you're called to help spread love and light. Okay, so you're a light worker in some capacity, whether that's just taking care of your own family, or whether that's, talking to your clients or whatever it is that you're doing. Like if you're a nurse, you're taking care of people, you're caring for them with compassion and grace. If you are, anything that, whatever you're doing, if you work in the grocery store, you're really, you're one of the essential people. We need you there. So you're doing that job. You're spreading light by allowing people to come get groceries. So like, no matter what you do for a living, in some way, shape, or form, you are a light carrier. Maybe you are, that's interesting that I said light carrier. That's the other thing I've been seeing is this picture of like carrying a lamp out in front of you so that you can see in the dark. So there's something to that. So if you guys are feeling that, know that, the more that we hold on to the truth and the light of God, that it's the lamp that's going to carry us through the darkness. So if you're struggling with this a little bit, that's okay too. I feel like it's going to kind of come and go a little bit, like you're going to be okay. And then maybe falling back into the fear or whatever, but it just ebb and flow with it because there's a lot of energy in the collective right now. So as I started looking into the 7 sins, it's like pride, envy, gluttony, greed, lust, sloth, and wrath. And so I looked those up a little bit, but I started to really look at them, and then my guides were like, no, we'll just tell you. So the pride, this is where we're moving from and what we're moving into, okay, is understanding the difference between these words, because in some way they can all teach us something. So pride in the quote unquote negative sense is thinking that you're better than somebody else, versus pride being, I have pride in my work, or I am proud of myself for doing XYZ, right? That's different than the negative connotation, which is, saying you're better than somebody or thinking that you're better than somebody. But pride in itself isn't what's bad. It's the energy behind it. Okay. Envy is very interesting because when you're coveting somebody else's stuff, when you're jealous of somebody else's stuff, that's holding you in a lower vibration. So the opposite side of that would be, if you see somebody that has something that you want, instead of being envious of them, the more you can be happy that they have that, by understanding that by basis of law of attraction, seeing what you want means everybody can have it. There's no limit to the resources that the universe has. We could all be in that same state of abundance if we could just believe it. So it's really interesting how these things are coming up. Again, gluttony, it's just overindulgence with no regard for others versus having the mindset that there's plenty and that there's always going to be enough, so you don't have to hoard anything, right? Now, and I'm not saying don't pick up a few extra groceries, you know what I mean? Because I have as well. I've picked up a few things here and there extra, just to have it. But like, I haven't gone and went to Sam's Club and bought 15 packs of toilet paper. You know what I mean? There's just no reason to do that. And every time I've gone to the store for something, I found exactly what I needed. So be aware of like if you're falling into any of these traps or not. If we go on to greed, it's never enough versus being content. So this could be, you know, something that people are looking at right now. Like some people are probably feeling really greedy because other people are getting to work and they're not. If you can find the contentment, regardless of where you're at with that, that's the magic. Okay. The lust is intense desire, regardless of who you hurt. Now, this one was interesting to me because a lot of times when we're talking about lust, we immediately think of like sexual fantasy tendencies, cheating on somebody, those kind of things, right? This is not at all what I got from my guides when they were talking about this today. I feel like the guides were saying that it's an intense desire for anything, and you want it no matter who has to get hurt in the process. Okay. So whether that be, you know, actually having a relationship with somebody else and it's going to hurt somebody else that's already involved, or, you know, spending all your resources on something that you want, regardless of what your family wants or needs. Like there's all of these different things. So that in itself is just having an intense desire to do something, regardless of who you hurt. Now, the opposite of that is passion, where you have an intense desire to do something, but it's for the highest and best interest of everybody involved, right? So again, it's looking at both sides. Sloth was interesting to me because I immediately think of the animal, but if you look at the word itself, it's basically like laziness. This is interesting too, because there can be a dynamic of both sides, either being so lazy and expecting everybody to do everything for you, right? So expecting the bailout, expecting money to come your way, expecting to get, you know, whatever it is, versus doing what you need to do to be able to, you know, bring in the income and have some active involvement in that, versus the other side that would be extreme, that also would not be healthy, would be being in the space where you think you have to do it all yourself and you can't rely on anybody, right? So it's kind of finding like the middle way. And then the last one was wrath, because since I talked about the 7 sins, I'm just going to go through all of them. So wrath, this is like a very intense resentfulness or being angry at somebody. It's like a stormy, turbulent energy, but what that really is a victim mentality. So the opposite side of that coin would be being in your power, not allowing people to treat you poorly, right? So instead of being resentful, just if you can heal it, forgive it, move on. So I just wanted to cover the 7 deadly sins because I feel like there's something to that. And I want you guys to start opening your vision, right? So coming back to 2020, this is the year where we're going to see clearly. So if you can expand your vision to see all sides of that, instead of, because immediately when I heard gluttony, I immediately thought, oh, this is not, you know, this is bad. You know what I mean? But then when I saw what my guides are wanting to do with it, like, I feel like that's part of what this 2020 vision is really beginning to see things from an expanded point of view. Now, what's even more interesting is what I've been hearing a lot lately is the eye of the needle. And I'm like, what are you guys trying to show me? And so basically what they were showing me is that it's the middle way, like the middle of the road. So you're not like totally extreme on this side and you're not totally extreme on the other side. You can be grounded and see both sides without getting too wrapped up into one or the other. And what they're showing me is like a coin. So like if you take a quarter, there's 2 sides, right? There's 2 sides to each coin. But if you turn it to where it's just where you can just see the side of it, it's very thin, right? So it's the middle way. It's the middle of the road. So there's something about just being even keel. Okay. So instead of on one side of the coin or the other, how can you kind of look at things right down the middle, seeing both sides, but being able to navigate straight and clear through the eye of the needle?